Hey everybody, this is Brenda Devine from Purpose 8 Institute, and you're listening to my podcast, Living a Life of Purpose, where we discuss the importance of purpose in our everyday lives. Discovering and living out your purpose keeps you focused on God's purpose. That is sharing the good news of salvation with others. This podcast is for people like me, still searching for the answers to who am I and why am I here? You and I were designed and created by God for purpose, and we have much to do. You can listen and subscribe to my podcast, Living a Life of Purpose with Brenda Devine on Anchor and all other podcast platforms. Hey, this is Brenda Devine from Purpose 8 Institute. Hey, I hope that everything is going well with you. Everything is going well with me. I want to say again, thank you for spending time out of your day to join this conversation of living a life of purpose. So today's topic is reframing your relationships. So throughout this podcast, we've talked about knowing who you are, renewing your mind, understanding, taking a look at being self-aware of habits and thoughts, creating space for God, valuing yourself, knowing who you really are. You're not just taking up air. You're not a mistake. You have talents and skills. You have capacity to learn. You have spiritual gifts. And hopefully you've done the work about looking at your own heart, your pride. You've been self-aware of who you really are, not just your labels and your titles and your positions and your positions in life and all the other things that we've talked about. So now what? So here you are, you're a believer, and you've been sorting through this stuff, and you have relationships with people. You have relationships at work and your family and your friends and organizations. But your first relationship that you have is your relationship with God and your relationship with yourself. So before purpose, you had relationships framed out a certain way based on, I'm going to say, a mutual agreement between whoever you're dealing with, your family, your job, your business. There was an agreement as to how things work. And now that you know your purpose, there's a need to reframe relationships. There's a need to reframe who you are now, the new you, the new you that is in process, the new you who is working towards and pressing towards the mark of what God has called you to do. So there's some reframing that has to occur. And the reframing first has to start with your own head. You have to understand that, so let's back up a little bit. It's a bit of a tightrope walk, because you've got these existing relationships, family, friends, spouse, mate, children. You've got these existing relationships that when you walk into a room or have a conversation, it's already decided what position you are in. Be that good or bad, it's already been decided. So now you have a better understanding of what you are here for, this life of purpose. And maybe you've shared some of what you've learned and with people, and maybe you have not. As believers, it's putting on a new relationship. It's like putting on new clothes. You're a new person, and you may not be that comfortable yet. You may still feel that fight between spirit and flesh, that fight between my relationship with God and how I fit in with other people, how I fit in my job, how I fit in with culture, how I fit in my family. You're going to feel that tension, and you're going to feel like maybe some days you are living more of a life of purpose than others, and other days you're like, man, I'm really not living that life of purpose. And then you reset, and then you get aligned again. But maybe you turn it on and turn it off. But that's not the life of a believer. So there has to be some reframing of these relationships. And the first reframing, before you can go to anybody else, is the reframing of the relationship with you and God and your purpose. So what I came to find out is that initially, it's probably about maybe 3 years ago, and we think we think everyone else is the problem instead of us. But then when we start to read our Bible and we study and we go to God for answers, and the Holy Spirit gives us revelation, we might not always want to hear that, but He'll give us the revelation, and then He'll give us correction and say, no, it's really you, and then He'll give us direction. So the direction that I realized and that the Holy Spirit corrected me on is that I was seeing people as obstacles and challenges instead of people as humans. And that's important, to see people as humans with feelings and perspectives, brokenness, just like you are, just like we are, just like I am. And so we have to understand that when we're approaching people, that we have to be human. And part of that comes through humbling and challenges and struggles, and God teaches us lessons about ourselves that we would not have known on and learned on our own, because we start to submit ourselves. But we reframe our relationship with, and how I reframe my relationship is that I constantly think of my purpose and put my purpose ahead of any of my relationships. That's family, husband, son, work, activities. My purpose comes first. And I know it seems like you're leaving people behind, but that's not it. You are accepting who you are. You are following God. You're being a servant. You're being obedient. He's asked you something to do, and your purpose comes first. And what you will find in reframing your relationship with your purpose is that you can cut through a whole lot of mess, because when you need to make a decision, you make your decision based on what God has called you to do, not necessarily what you want to do. And it gives you a platform for life. And it gives you a platform for relationships with other people. Because as you put your purpose first, as you live out your life of purpose, people see the change in you. People see God's glory in you. They see the change in how you talk and how you speak, how you think, what you do, your activities, how you respond to situations. They see the change in you. Now, nobody's 100%. We'll make that clear. But they see that you are different than what you were. They can see it. So as they see it in you, you are to share that with them. And one of the ways that you can share it, other than, people get turned off by religion, faith, because they think people are hypocrites and that they're not consistent and that they don't follow their own advice. And we all have our moments. But part of being a believer and living this life of faith is sharing the message. And we can share the message by sharing our lives and sharing our experiences and reframing those relationships in a different way, by framing them by being humble, framing them with love, framing them with patience and understanding. I know it can be trying, particularly when you've been fixed in these relationships with your family, your friends, and your job. And it can be a struggle. And it will be a process. And through it, you will learn more about yourself. So in our relationships with our spouses and our mates and our children, our mother, our fathers, our friends, our brothers and sisters, strangers, people who we go and do business with, people who we go and buy things from, people that help us when we go out shopping or to the store or in our businesses and our activities. We are all humans. And so you are a human. You realize that there is so much more to you because of your relationship with God. You're not just walking around aimlessly. You have a reason to be here. You have a purpose. There is importance in your life. There is something for you to do that God has given you to do. And that is the same just for your husband, your child, your mother, your father, your friend, and strangers, your acquaintances. They all have a purpose too. They are all human. So we have to reframe those relationships and say they can't be like they were before. They have to be better. Those relationships have to be better. So better means that when you're talking to your husband, you just don't just say the first thing that you're thinking about. You reframe your conversation based on humility and love, because he's a human and you know what he likes, what he doesn't like, and you have to reframe yourself and reframe the relationship and see him as that human that he may have items and things and issues in his life that he's never discussed with you, but he still carries them with him. And so you have to reframe the relationship that this is my husband, this is my possession, this is, no, he is a human with feelings and a heart and a purpose. And by him watching you, you are sharing that message. You are praying for him. You are talking to him. You are being patient with him. And you are being long-suffering. But he's being long-suffering with you too. But it's about the reframing of those relationships with your children. We don't own our children. They are here. They are here on this earth with purpose. They are created and designed for purpose. It was no accident. Even if you think you planned it, it was not planned. It was all in God's order.
So we have to see our children as humans. When you start to see your child as a human, you start to see all the possibilities that they have in them, their gifts, their talents. And you can see that and you can encourage them. So when they go to school and when they go out and someone's chastising them and talking crazy to them, you can give them those words of encouragement that they can go back to. You're sharing your journey of purpose and the things that have occurred with you. I know, I think as parents, we don't always talk to our kids about the things that go wrong or the challenges that we have, and we let them think that everything is perfect, and they have these expectations that they shouldn't struggle on anything. Everything should run smoothly, and then they're agitated or confused why things don't go well, like they seem to see them on TV or movies or social media, and even in our own lives. So we have to look at our children as humans and speak life into them. Have them. I know when my son was young, I started him off with Bible study in the morning while he was eating breakfast. Quick little. They have comic books and stories and stuff, and I just started him out so he could start his day with the Word. I wasn't really looking at him as a human then. I was looking at it as I wanted the Word in him. But as he's grown up and now he's a man, I started looking at him as a human about 3 years ago, and I start to realize that there was some brokenness that he needed to address, because I started to see him as a human, not as being a person that was something was going on, or maybe he said something I didn't like or whatever, but what's really going on behind what he was saying, the words that he was choosing, his moods. I started to see him as a human that needed love, that needed encouragement, that needed my time. And so reframing our relationships with our parents, we have seasons where they're over authority, and then as they get older, we may have to help them more, assist them more. And maybe some of us have had issues with our parents, different times of our lives. But we have to see them as humans. They had struggles and challenges and insecurities and rejection and things that happened to them that maybe they didn't get over either. And maybe they passed some of those feelings and emotions on to you. But you have to realize everyone has a capacity. Doesn't mean that we can't learn and we can't grow. But sometimes people just can only go so far because they're only willing to go so far. And we can't carry that burden of just blaming them. But we have to realize that they are humans. They are humans too. And we reframe our relationship from being in a certain position in the family to being human. No longer the oldest or the youngest or the middle child, the smart one, the not so smart, the spoiled one, the baby. We have to start seeing each other as humans. Because when we start seeing each other as humans that need healing, that need the Word, that need love, that need humility, it's different than looking at the same person as, you really got on my nerves when we was growing up. You always, you mama's favorite, you daddy's favorite, you always get your way. It's different when we step back and we start to see our family as humans. And then I want to say a reframe about work, about our business. We have people who we walk by for years and probably not speak. And maybe that's the culture. Maybe that's your experience. Maybe someone at work got on your nerves. I definitely. I definitely know about that. But here's the thing that I've learned this past couple of weeks as I took time to speak to someone in a different way than I usually speak to them. That I saw her as human, and I had a really engaging conversation, and I hope that she had an engaging conversation with me, because I stopped to have a conversation with her, to see her as human and not as that obstacle that I had seen in the past, but to open my eyes and perspective to a new thing. So I had to reframe that relationship. So instead of walking by, not saying, or just, hey, I can walk by now because I've shared something with a human, and a human has shared something with me. So we have a new perspective, a new relationship, a new reframing between the two of us. And that reframing in each and every one that I've talked about, our reframing and looking at people as humans, it travels. It's out in the air. It's in their spirit, it's in their heart, and they will share what they got from you with others. And so we're sharing the message of salvation. It doesn't have to be, oh, well, you got to read this, you got to study this, no, it's reframing our relationships. Because when we reframe our relationship as believers, that the gift of salvation, we are sharing it in our behavior, in our conversation, in our being authentic, being genuine, being sincere, being concerned, listening. Listening is a big thing. Listening. Sometimes people just want you to listen to them. That took me a long time to understand, because I wanted to run my mouth and talk. And I have to catch myself. When people want you to listen to them, to understand them, to appreciate them, and you want the same. And so when we get that from our God, when we get that love from Him, when we get that understanding from Him, and we understand that we are just humans, that we are here to serve Him for His purpose. And His purpose, His ultimate purpose, is that everyone knows Him and receives the gift of salvation. So we have an opportunity as we reframe our conversations, reframe our relationships. We have that opportunity to do that in little ways throughout our day, in little ways as we engage with people, talk to people, Zoom people, virtual meetings, conference calls. We have an opportunity to reframe our relationships and share that good message of salvation and being human. This is Brenda Devine from Purpose 8 Institute. Hey, I'll talk to you in a little bit. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me on my podcast, Living a Life of Purpose, on Anchor and all other major podcast platforms. To learn more about Purpose 8 Institute and our ministry of sharing the importance of purpose, please visit our website, www.purpose8institute.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and even TikTok. If you would like to learn more about purpose beyond this podcast, Living a Life of Purpose, you can also purchase one of my books that are available on my website, purpose8institute.com, and also on Amazon.